for tuning in live this morning to Family Talk Podcast 45.20. As always, I'm your host Shelby and I have a great show planned for you today. As you know, here on Family Talk, we are always interested in looking at the different family dynamics and open to realizing that not all families look alike, and we love that. So today, we are going to talk about a topic that can be considered, I guess you could say, somewhat taboo in the family world. We're going to talk about adoption. I know what you're all thinking, but you've got it all wrong. Adoption is just as beautiful as any other child joining a family, and it's actually also becoming more common and accepted as time progresses for not just heterosexual families, but also same-sex families and even single-parent homes. More and more people are defining what family looks like to them in the way that they see fit, and you know, and we all know that I am here for all of it. So, now, as we get to my favorite part of the show, I want to preview a little bit of what we're going to talk about today. Would you believe me if I told you that there's taboo talk within the taboo talk of adoption? Yeah, well, there is. When we think of adoption today, we think of more private adoptions within the family or other ways such as maybe a currently pregnant mother who finds an adoptive family, but no one really wants to discuss the children who are adopted out of foster homes and the adoption of older children. So today, I have brought in two specialists, Dr. Alexis Happy and Dr. Amy Bryan, who have started a foundation called Lost Voices, based right here in Columbia, Missouri. They cater to the study and betterment of children who come out of foster care homes. So, their foundation pretty much provides great matching services for families interested in foster care, and then also counseling for the children who are adopted from foster care and struggle potentially with mental health and other behavioral patterns. But enough about me and discussing this. Let's talk to our two amazing specialists. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Happy and Dr. Bryan.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, okay, let's waste no more time. Talk to me. Lost Voices, adoptions of adolescents. How did all of this start?
Okay. So, Dr. Bryan and I started Lost Voices about, 4 years ago, right after we completed our dissertations, because we were interested in the parts of adoption that weren't explored. We became interested in this together after we took a course in our undergraduate career. It was our family communications class. We were aware of adoption and the impact it had on family dynamics. However, we noticed that no one really studied the foster care aspects of adoption. They only looked into private adoption.
And that is why we wanted to start Lost Voices. Dr. Happy and I both have a different perspective, she being a social worker and myself being a communication theorist. But it works because we are able to cater to the children in so many different ways. Lost Voices now really focuses on making sure that our families are a perfect match for our children, and also that the children we get to work with are getting the mental health assistance they need. It's small now, but we know with its current success, it will expand.
Wow, ladies, this is phenomenal. It's amazing that you use your positions to help those and that you are able to realize that a certain group needs your help. So, this negative stigma that surrounds the adoption of adolescents in foster care, is this true? What have you all found in your research?
So, through our research, we found 3 things common amongst the adoption of adolescents. First, parenting styles, communication, and openness within adoptive parents and birth parents. Second, stability, age, and placement. And finally, behavioral patterns and mental health within the adoption process.
Interesting. Okay. So, with that being said, we're going to take a couple of callers that are curious about all of the things that we've just talked about. And pause, here we go. Caller 1, you are on the line with Shelby, Dr. Happy, and Dr. Bryan. What is your question?
Good morning. My name's Emma, and I was calling with a question specifically about the parenting styles and openness with adoptive parents and birth parents and the difference between the two.
Okay, Emma, tell us more.
So I've heard that foster children tend not to be in open adoptions. Why is that?
That's a great question, Emma. When we were studying Frash, Brooks, and Barth researchers who studied openness within adoption in 2000, they found that this occurs because it isn't always the best option for the adoptee. This could be because there was mistreatment from biological parents, or just because the biological family or adopted family may have decided against it. What's a little more interesting to look at is the fact that openness in adoption is always looked at as a positive, when in reality it just really depends on the adoptee. One size fits all does not work well in the adopting world, or in any world for that matter. You have to base it on the adoptee.
Wow, yeah, that makes so much sense. Thanks.
Thank you, Emma. So, you all mentioned how openness may not be the best, dependent upon the adoptees, and also stability and age placement playing a factor. Considering that most of the adoptees you all deal with are older, what does that look like with regard to placement?
Stability isn't solely focused on age. It is focused on what the adoptee experienced prior to foster care and what the home provides for them in return. Does the home provide an open and safe atmosphere for the adoption discussion? Is help available to tend to the psychological needs of the children based upon their previous trauma? Is the home a comfortable environment? Placement is key for us. We focus a lot on making sure the family understands what the child that they are adopting has been through and also what it's going to be like helping the child. Our goal is to make sure that the home they are placed in allows for a positive experience for everyone involved.
Wow. I think it's so important that you are able to focus on it on a case by case basis and ensure that the child is getting a good fit and the help that they need. And pardon me, but we're getting another caller. Caller 2, if you could state your name and your question.
Good morning, Shelby. My name is Aaron, and I had a question about the mental health and behavioral patterns amongst foster care adoptees. What, if any, are some of the problematic patterns that adoptees show, and what are some ways to combat them?
Great question, Aaron. During my research, Spiegel and Ocasio studied the different patterns that show for adoptees. Now, I don't want anyone to get a negative feel here, but some of these can be things like teenage pregnancy, incarceration, homelessness, and substance abuse. This can be for a multitude of reasonings, usually because of the stigmas that are placed on foster care, but also because many people aren't willing to offer help or guide adoptees to help. There is also a pattern of resilience amongst some who do not experience any of these things. Whatever the case may be, that is why it is important for them to have someone to talk to and to discuss their situations with.
Thank you so much for that question, Aaron, and that's key, really, and I think that's why it's so important that Lost Voices does have that mental health aspect, because a lot of people don't want to focus on that, but realize that, that can be a traumatic experience or even something positive that they may just want to discuss with somebody without just having that stigma. Now, ladies, I don't want to keep you too much longer. I know you have a lot of interviews while you're in the city, so I asked, just to end us off, what is one thing that you want to leave all of us with?
Okay. Lost Voices wants to focus on changing the negative connotation associated with foster care adoption. At one point, adoption in itself was something that wasn't readily accepted. Through open discussion and education, people have become more aware and much more accepting. It has become something that is looked at in a positive light. So in turn, we want to change the dynamic of adopting of adolescents and ensure people know that they can have a happy home with their child as long as they are willing to put forth a little bit of effort.
Wow. What you all are doing is truthfully beautiful. Thank you both so much for coming in, and I wish you all the best in all of your future endeavors.
Thank you.
Thank you. For more information on Lost Voices, please visit their website at lostvoicesheard.org. Now we're going to switch over from our research side to hear a parent's perspective. It's time for today's Parent Spotlight, where we talk to parents that live the topics we're discussing every day. Today's, of course, focusing on adoption out of foster care.
Thanks, Shelby. I'm here with my friends and mentors, Jeff and Angela Carson. Over the last 2.5 years, they have fostered and adopted their youngest daughter, Leah. So I just had a few questions for them, and we'll get right into that. First question is, how did you two become aware of the foster care process, and what kind of factors kind of gave you the heart to foster and adopt?
We always felt like adoption was going to be a part of our family story. We didn't know exactly what that would look like, and so we started having kiddos, and once we had our third, we really started to seriously consider, what adoption route we should pursue.
I also learned that there were more than 13,000 children in foster care in Missouri alone. There are about 400,000 nationally. So it's not hard to see that there is a really great need for children to have a safe place to go when their biological parents cannot care for them. There are also over 1,000 children waiting for a forever family whose parents' rights have already been terminated. And so while foster care looked like the hardest and messiest route to go toward adoption, it was just kind of a big moment for me whenever I just really felt strongly. There are just moments like that where you just know that there's something you're supposed to do, and foster care was one of those.
Awesome. That's great. Next question I had for you two were, what were some of the biggest changes to the family dynamic with the addition of Leah as opposed to maybe your other biological children?
I mean, it's different when you bring home your own biological child from the hospital than when you welcome in a child of another mom and dad into your home that you've been entrusted to love, like, your own child for a season, but still, with the reality that they have another mom and dad. So that's definitely a big switch.
Well, I would say for me, it's really different to carry a child in your womb for 9 months and then bring them home. And it's really different to get a phone call one day and then go pick them up from the hospital the next. So right from the get-go, for me, it was really different because I didn't have that 9 months of preparation and bonding with her while in the womb that I had with my other kids. But I also really felt the weight of the fact that someone else did. And she still legally belonged to her. Our home was just temporary for this little girl. And so we wanted to love her like she was going to stay forever and also prepare our hearts as best we could for a time when she would go home. And so so you just live with the tension constantly of loving 100% and also loving their parents and wanting them to succeed and to get better.
Cool. Thank you. Last question that I had for you was, what are some of the ways that your parenting styles had to change as it related to Leah that you didn't expect?
I think what it changed for me was knowing the trauma that she experienced, although hers was in the womb, has made me more thoughtful about the way that I need to engage even her behavior problems. I think it's made me have to explore different options as far as discipline or addressing behavior issues, because sometimes they are physical and emotional needs that just need to be met. And so I think that it's probably making me a better parent.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Again, these were my friends, Jeff and Angela. We appreciate the time that you guys took out of your schedule to answer some questions for us and give us a little bit of your firsthand experience with foster care and adoption.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
for
you.
sure.
That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in. I am Shelby Anderson from Family Talk 45.20, signing off.